Hello and welcome back, business writing students. So, this is probably not everybody's favorite topic. So, we're going to be talking about grammar and punctuation and all of those nitty gritty things. And we're not going to be diagramming sentences or anything crazy like that. And hopefully, this is kind of more of a review of some basics. And it's primarily intended just to make sure everybody has those basics covered. But please do watch the whole video just to make sure you're back up to speed and all of that good stuff. So back to the basics, right? The fundamentals of writing, things that you maybe haven't even thought about or looked at since elementary school, or maybe you did it recently, right? So here we go. So basic review of grammar, because if we want to sound intelligent and professional, we want to be using good grammar. And of course, we could use something like Grammarly or the spell check in Google or Microsoft Word, but we don't want to rely on those things, as they are fallible, those programs, and I have fought with them in the past. So just be aware that even if you're using those, it's very helpful and beneficial to have a basic understanding of grammar. Just saying. All right. So here we go. So let's just start with the basic building block of writing. Now we could say a letter or a word is a basic building block, and we'll kind of get to words in a second. But a sentence is, quote, a set of words that is complete in itself, typically containing a subject and a predicate, conveying a statement, question, exclamation, command, and consisting of a main clause and sometimes one or more subordinate clauses. Now, I'm not going to expect you to memorize this, although who knows, maybe I'll throw it onto the quiz. Could happen. So this is a good definition just to start with, right? It's from the Google Dictionary, the Oxford Languages Dictionary. Okay, so it's a single unit, a statement, question, exclamation, or command. Now, if you're not quite sure yet, it's something like this. So a clause is a unit that can be a sentence. I like bananas, period. And I like grapes, where the and conjunction is a connective word. Or I can have a subordinate clause and a main clause. Mama's taking me to buy shoes after she picks me up. So this part here, after she picks me up, could not stand on its own. It needs this main clause. I first met her in Paris. That could stand alone. Where I lived as a small child. So that's subordinate, right? It cannot exist without this. So in terms of the basics, right, a sentence has a subject, a noun, and a predicate, a verb, some sort of action, right? So a thing, person, place, or thing, and an action, a verb. So Joe ate would be a complete sentence, even though it's only 2 words. Now I can begin to add on to that. I could say sometimes, right, we include a description of the action. We call it an adverb, right? It adds to the verb. So Joe ate quickly. Adverbs generally ly ending, right? So quickly, really, quietly, something like that. And they can help us better understand a situation. But we can also add a description of the noun, and that is called an adjective, right? So skinny Joe ate quickly. Adjectives are just things that describe. So colors are adjectives, right? Red, blue, green, things like that. Tall, short, skinny, fat, whatever it is. And it depends, right? The thing that you should be asking yourself if you use an adverb or an adjective, especially in a business setting, is whether or not it's absolutely important. So let's talk about adverbs for a second. We're not going to talk about adjectives in this one, but we'll talk about adverbs. And the reason is that I think a lot of people overuse adverbs in their writing, and it has a couple of downsides. One is that it makes sentences much longer, and the other is that they're often unnecessary. Mark Twain once said something to the effect of, anytime you're tempted to use the word really, which is an adverb, again, ly word, substitute it with the word damn, and your editor will cut it out anyways. His point there is that it is an unnecessary word. If I say something was really interesting or damn interesting, I just as well could say it was interesting. Or I could use a different word, fascinating. So avoid those unnecessary adverbs, right? We really want to complete the project this week. What is really bringing to the sentence? Some people say, well, it shows how much they want to complete the project this week. And that's fine, but we could do that by rewording. Now, if we just subtract the word really, we get, we want to complete the project this week. People still get the impression, they still get the idea, the desire is there. If I want something stronger, then I might choose a different word. It's imperative that we complete the project this week. That word imperative now adds strength to the sentence because it means we need to. It is essential or very, very important that we do that. And I realize I just used very, very, which adverbs, but the assignment was incredibly hard, is incredibly important there. Could I just say the assignment was difficult? Again, change the wording a little bit. Ask yourself which ones of these sound a little bit cleaner and a little bit more intelligent, right? It's not to say that people who use adverbs are unintelligent or people that misuse grammar are unintelligent. I do it, right? Not to say that I'm a genius, but I use adverbs. I use tautologies. I misspell things. We're human. We're fallible. But in business writing, especially, we're taking time to be intentional. So I mentioned tautologies just a second ago, and I'm going to kind of give you this a little breakdown of tautologies because they are a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. Now, what is a tautology? A tautology is when you have unnecessary repetition within a sentence. I'll give you an example. A number of years ago, not far from where I live, there was a new apartment complex or condo complex going up, and the sign said, "Our units are uniquely different." To me, that is a tautology. Unique means one of a kind, right? There's nothing else like it. Different also means it's different from other things. Something cannot be more or less unique, nor can it be uniquely different. It becomes a tautology. So let's look at some other examples of that unnecessary repetition. The team completes the annual report yearly. Now, this is a sentence you might see, and it very much could be in a business email. The problem is that annual means yearly, right? So we've got that tautology in there. Now, this one, when I created it, a little bit by design, I can't just say the team completes the annual report. I could, it depends on the context. I might instead say every year the team completes a report, dependent upon the situation. I could say Ibrahim completed the report himself, and you hear people and you see people say this. And some people say, well, there's nothing wrong with that because it indicates that he completed the report alone. The problem is, if I wanted to indicate that other people helped him, I would include that, right? Ibrahim and Martina completed the report. That shows that multiple people completed it. Ibrahim's team completed the report. That shows who. And it's a more specific way of saying this than just he completed it himself. So there you go. That's kind of the quick overview. Essentially, what I want you to be thinking from this review-wise is, what is a sentence? Because if we have that kernel of what makes a sentence, we can begin to think about what makes a sentence fragment. We can think about what makes a run-on sentence, and we can begin to avoid those in our writing. Now, again, Grammarly, other checkers, things like that will catch a lot of these. They're pretty good. I'm not saying they're terrible. I use a grammar checker like that in my own work, just as a second set of eyes. But the more confident that you get, the easier it becomes, and the less time you're going to spend running those grammar checks. Now, just as a one last aside before I end the video, if you are using one of those grammar checkers, pay attention to the errors that you make. It's very likely that you make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Once you learn what those mistakes are and you learn to avoid them, you can change that pattern. And changing that pattern in your writing will have the sort of trickle-down effect of also impacting and altering the way that you speak. All right. There you go. If you have questions, comments, what else? concerns, jokes, memes, recipes, you let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to y'all later.